everyone. It's nice to see you once again for a little snippet. And I know that I've gotten many messages from you that enjoy these little snippets. And I really love the snippets because this is really how I learn is I have to take this in little bites and little snippets, little parts to absorb and understand it. And I thought this one was very interesting. This is from the second day of June of 1899. So this is very early on in volume two. And so I think that this is important for us to lay this foundation, these foundational things that come in the first 10 volumes particularly. And this one is headed in the writings, the heading is the greatest favor that can be done for a soul is to make her know herself. And we've many times heard, the saying, know thyself. And I always particularly meditate on what God said to St. Catherine of Siena when he said, I am he who is, and you are she who is not, which gives us a very kind of a stark idea about our position compared to God's, our existence compared to God's. And so, again, from volume two, the greatest favor that can be done for a soul is to make her know herself. This is essential for us, particularly if we want to grow in the divine will. So it starts off with Luisa saying, this morning, my most sweet Jesus wanted to let me touch my nothingness with my own hands. In the act in which he made himself seen, the first words with which he addressed me were, who am I? And who are you? In these two words, I saw two immense lights. In one, I comprehended God. In the other, I saw my misery, my nothingness. I saw I was nothing but a shadow, just like the shadow formed by the sun in illuminating the earth. It is dependent on the sun. And as the sun moves from it to other places, the shadow ceases to exist outside of its splendor. The same for my shadow, that is, my being. It is dependent on the mystical sun, God, who can dissolve the shadow in one simple instant. What to say then about how I have deformed this shadow which the Lord has given me, which is not even my own? The mere thought of it was horrifying. It was stinking, putrid, all full of worms. Yet, in such a horrifying state, I was forced to stand before a God so holy. Oh, how content I would have been had I been allowed to hide in the darkest abysses. After this, Jesus told me, the greatest favor I can do for a soul is to make her know herself. The knowledge of self and the knowledge of God go together. The more you know yourself, the more you know God. When the soul has known herself, as she sees that she can do nothing good by herself, her shadow, her being transforms her in God, and it happens that she does all of her operations in God. It happens that the soul is in God and walks beside him without looking, without investigating, without speaking. In a word, as if she were dead. In fact, knowing the depth of her nothingness, she dares to do nothing by herself, but she blindly follows the trajectory of the operations of God. It seems to me that to a soul who knows herself, it happens as to those people who travel in a steamer and moving from one point to another without taking a step of their own, they make long journeys, but everything by virtue of the steamer that transports them. In the same way, the soul, By placing herself in God, just like the people in a steamer, makes sublime flights on the way to perfection, knowing, however, that it is not her, but rather she does it by virtue of that blessed God who carries her within himself. Oh, how the Lord favors her, enriches her, and concedes the greatest graces, knowing that she attributes nothing to herself, but everything to him. O soul, you who know yourself, how fortunate you are. Many times in the divine will, we talk about nothingness. And, as I've often pointed out, sometimes we tend to equate nothingness with worthlessness, and nothing could be further from the truth. We are incredibly, infinitely, completely loved by God. There is nothing worthless about us to God. But the fact remains that we are nothing without God. God is the only thing that gives us life, gives us thought, gives us breath, gives us existence. And that this example of the steamer or a ship, um, you know, we're talking about days of the Titanic back here. In 1899, a steamer is considered a great ship in the ocean. And you get into the ship, and the ship takes you all across the ocean, great lengths, and you do nothing but get on the ship. You're not responsible for getting across the ocean. The ship did it, the steamer did it. And God gives us this very uh, glorious example. Jesus is saying, in moving from one point to another without taking a step of their own, they make long journeys, but everything by virtue of the steamer that transports them. And in the same way, we who take this spiritual journey do so. We get from point A to point B. We get from the starting line to our destination in the divine will by allowing God to carry us, by allowing God to take us. It's nothing of ours. It's nothing we do. We're a shadow who's following the sun. God is the sun. There's a reason why so many of the passages describe God as the sun, as light, as um, uh, the son of the earth, the son of my will. The book, the autobiographical book, the son of my will. I'm sorry, it's not autobiographical. It's just the story of Luisa. The son, S-U-N, of my will. This thing called the divine will enlightens our will. It guides our soul. And if we live in the divine will and not our own will, where we step out of that shadow, step out of that light, then we're taking our own little trip. This is a nice way of looking at it. If we live in the divine will, we allow God to guide our steps. We allow God to pull us along in the divine will from point A to point B. He says, by placing herself in God, just like the people in a steamer make sublime flights. Think about that. On the way to perfection, knowing, however, that it is not her, but rather she does it by virtue of that blessed God who carries her within himself. Oh, how the Lord favors her, enriches her, and concedes the greatest graces, knowing that she attributes nothing to herself, but everything to him. O soul, you who know yourself, how fortunate you are. How fortunate we are when we come to understand that we are nothing, that we can really achieve nothing on our own, nothing of greatness, nothing of real uh, redemptive and sanctifying purpose. This is the beauty of living in the divine will. He does it for us. I often say that one of the things that we experience in the divine will, as we attempt to live a virtuous life. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with virtue. Growing in virtue is very good and it's very important. God builds virtue in us as we live in the divine will. And things that we thought we could not overcome in our personalities and our habits and our traits, we begin to find as we live in the divine will and we follow this experience of allowing Jesus always to lead us, always to be and live in his will as much as we can. Hopefully, the longer we live in the divine will, the more we live in the divine will and not our own will. Our own little self will run riot. Going to do it myself, like a 2-year-old. No, we give our will to Jesus and we say, you do it. You take whatever merit is in this little action that I'm doing, you take it and do something with it. I don't even know what it's worth. I don't have any idea what it's worth. I don't have any idea what good it can do, but you do. And you can use it. Because so much doesn't make sense to us, does it? We see things that God has done, that Jesus has done. We look around and we go, I don't understand that. I don't understand why that happens. Well, God understands it. He's way, way, way above us. So we can take this little act, which he puts outside of time, so that the act affects past, present, and future in a way that we could never understand or know. This is where the trust comes in. We trust that that is happening because we don't see it happening. We don't feel it happening. We trust what Jesus said, that it is happening. And as we do that, grace comes to us. Knowledge comes to us. Virtue comes to us. And lo and behold, sometimes you get to this point where, praise God, this defect that you thought that you could never correct, this shortcoming that you could never escape from, it was just part of your personality, it was just part of who you were, that you had tried to do better, you tried to, but, give it to God. And lo and behold, one day you realize it's gone. This resentment that you had, that you thought that you could never be rid of, this attachment that you had that you thought you'd never be rid of, just bad habit that you had that you thought you'd never be rid of, is gone. It's from the grace of God through living in the divine will. He takes care of it. The surrender prayer, if you know the surrender prayer, we should be saying this every day. Give it all to God. Give it to him in the divine will. He will take care of it. But this is what we have. This is why we have to know ourselves. Because our little egos say, well, I can do that. I'll just do that myself. I can do it myself, like a 2-year-old. So again, reading is from volume 2. It's from June the 2nd of 1899. And I think it was a beautiful little reading. And when I saw it the other day, I kind of tagged it and said, I just want to share this with everybody because I think that this is very important to understand that we were really nothing. We are nothing. We couldn't exist. If God stopped thinking about us for 1 nanosecond, we'd be gone. Poof, we'd be gone. We wouldn't exist. It's only because of his love and his desire for us to exist that we exist. No, there's nothing we did. It's nothing we do. It's all him. And he's given us this beautiful gift of the divine will. Because I would say we have these little pea brains. Compared to God, we have these little pea-sized brains. I would say fish, I think maybe fish are the dumbest creatures on the face of the earth. I'm not sure, but I think I've read that or heard that somewhere. They're totally driven by nature. They have no brain. They can't think. They don't have a brain. Um, as much difference as there is between a fish and us in terms of brain power, can you imagine how much difference there is between us and God? We're less than a fish. um, our little pea brains. God says, that's okay. I'll do it. I'll do it. Just trust me and love me. Just give me the credit. Just give me credit. I'll do it for you. I know this is beyond you. So let us give thanks and praise to God for our nothingness, for his willingness to give us this great life in the divine will, to remove our shortcomings, to remove our defects, to remove these things in our personalities, in our being that set up these roadblocks, these veils between us and God, because he will. Okay, so I apologize. Our snippet here has lasted over 16 minutes now. So I mean to bring this to you quickly, but you guys know me. I can't talk for a little couple minutes about the divine will, because the divine will is so big and it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. So I thank you. Please leave a comment below if you like the snippets. If there's something that you'd like to see on the channel that you don't see on the channel, please let me know. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss anything on the channel. There's some good stuff that comes up here on Wednesday nights. Of course, tomorrow, I'm making this on a Tuesday. Divine Will 101 comes up, and there's some other great things that are coming up. So I love to see you. I love to see your comments. I always read all the comments. I may not reply to them due to time or whatever, but when you see the little heart dinged, when you see the little heart light up, you've known that I've read your comment, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all the input I can get. So God bless you. God love you. And let us all continue to live in his will. Bye-bye.